you firstly for that lovely introduction. And just to say firstly, we really don't like talking about the award thing, which is of course a massive lie to start with. We love it. So if you want to talk about that over the break, then please do. So most of you probably know who Thomson Reuters is. I haven't got a slide on it. We're really big, we're global, we're in content, technology, AI. We even sell books. So a really broad spectrum of products in our portfolio. And our team are responsible for all of that across Europe. And just by way of context, we have around 50 marketers in our team. So quite a significant portfolio of services that we market across Europe. And as you would expect, we do everything from strategy through to demand gen, content marketing, analytics, data, etc. So that's just a little bit of context. Our main markets are to serve lawyers, tax professionals, CFOs. So on the basis that I'm guessing none of you in the audience here are those things, and secondly, on the basis that I don't think I'm pitching for a new job, today is not remotely a pitch. It's a really authentic walkthrough, I guess, of a case study of how we took something that was fundamentally good at the core, but perhaps we will recognize this as marketing leaders, had lost its way a little bit, and how we placed people very firmly at the center of our transformation journey. And as I'll come to talk about, we do everything else, including technology and ABM and programmatic and contextual advertising and really, really clever things in marketing. But having been to a few of the B2B events over the last year, you sit around a table of marketing leaders, and I think it's fair to say that those things have all become the table stakes. And I was at a dinner with Joel and colleagues a little while ago, and everyone was going around the table talking about marketing technology. And I think I was 8th round the table. By the time it got to me, everyone had Marketo, everyone had Salesforce, everyone had Eloqua. And I think as we search for growth and transformation in our businesses, for me, people is fast becoming the #1 differentiator for marketing teams moving forward. And we set about building our transformation very firmly around our people and making them feel good, making them feel that they were part of something that was progressive, that was fast-paced, that was moving. And today I'm going to tell you a little bit about our story. And I did mention I would be authentic, so there are some things that work brilliantly, some things that didn't work brilliantly, and I'm going to share some of those today. And I think there are potentially 3 takeouts for you today. One might be that you say, wow, I love the blueprint, we're going to take that, and please do. There might be elements of today that you like and you feel that might work in your organization. But equally, it's fine if you go, well, that's rubbish. We're already doing that so much better than Thomson Reuters, so use it as a benchmark if nothing else. So hopefully you'll all get something out of it. So I mentioned it was going to be authentic today, and I think you're probably supposed to start these type of presentations with some inspirational quote. Maya Angelou maybe, Richard Branson, Rocky Balboa. So I haven't done that today. If you want to have a little pause and think of your own favorite one at this point, please do. But today is really about the realities of this that we face as marketing leaders. So I joined Thomson Reuters just over 2 years ago now. And this is something that you might recognize or that might resonate with you. What I saw very early on was a marketing team that were fundamentally really bloody good, but that had had a really tough time within the organization and were perhaps not feeling great, that were feeling a lack of confidence, a lack of support, a lack of worth within the business. And I think I've worked in marketing now for 20 plus years, which I know is probably a real shock, right? Come on, someone. And I don't think it's ever been tougher, actually, to work in marketing. And I might touch upon that a few times within the presentation. So we got all of our guys together in a room very similar to this. And in advance of that, I asked everyone to send me an image of how you feel right now. And I think, firstly, that's a really good technique, because it might sound really easy that someone just goes on Google Images and grabs something, but they have to put a real lot of thought into that. And apologies for the terrible clip art. these aren't mine, but these are the actual images that I got sent through from the marketing team. So the first one is a feeling of being a hamster on a wheel. So marketers working harder and harder than ever, running quicker than ever before, but not really feeling that they're getting anywhere. The one over here is kind of linked to that, but that feeling of being in the center of the business, but being pulled and stretched all over the place. And then the one in the middle, I think, is perhaps the most relevant for us, was that feeling of a little bit of finger pointing within the business. And again, some of this may resonate with you, but there was certainly that culture that if things were going well in the business, well, that had nothing to do with marketing, right? We don't even tell them when it's going well. But the second it's not, it's a marketing issue. Not enough leads, too many leads, wrong type of leads, on the wrong day, in the wrong flavor, whatever it would be. So whether it was perceived or real, there was a feeling that the marketers were running harder than ever, pulled in all directions, and that there was this almost a finger-pointing culture within the organization, which was quite a scary realization, actually, and it took some time to really dig beneath and get to this as effectively the true insight, really. Have any of you ever read the book Good to Great? I don't think it's quite so trendy now, but it certainly was about a decade ago. That worked off the premise that if you really want to go forward and make transformation or progression, that first of all, you have to accept a brutal reality or a brutal truth. And it's often really uncomfortable, and I think it should be uncomfortable, because otherwise how are you going to take anything forward? And here was ours. Here's the summary of everything I just talked about. So our brutal reality was that as a marketing team, we weren't fully in control of our destiny. So a feeling that marketing was kind of riding this wave in the business. We weren't fully in control of our success. And the final point, which may feel, a soft factor, but I think it's really important, just didn't feel very happy about it. So that took a while, actually, to tease this out and to get to this brutal reality. That's how our marketing team was feeling less than 2 years ago. They were smiling, they were performing, they were very professional and doing great work, by the way. But that was the underlying feeling that we had. So quite sobering, really. And as I say, some of that or all of that may resonate. As I say, I really genuinely think it's not an easy environment to work in marketing these days. But for us now, we knew we had a start point. And what I'm going to share with you today is the sequential steps that we've taken to dramatically change that. And did anyone mention that we're the marketing team of the year? Just checking. Okay. This is a really interesting segue from the last presentation, actually. We've only just met, so that's good. So we set about doing this on an emotional level and a rational level. And for me as a marketing leader, whether that's a new campaign, a brand strategy, employee engagement work, I think if you can get that combination of engaging people on an emotional and a rational level, you'll be really, really successful. So for me, this wasn't about, hey guys, we've got donuts on Thursdays and we've got a pool table. It's about fundamental change that everybody in that marketing community can see it means a lot to the organization, and we have a systematic way of going about improving this with investment, and that's really key to me. So then we started to evolve our thinking on where do we want to go? And I'll come on to this in a second. Building with the team a very clear pathway then of how we're going to get there, and then the final point is how will we know when we've arrived? And these things all interweave throughout the rest of the presentation, as you'll see. So the first step for us, and I think this is really critical, is we needed to create a vision. And one of the elements that, again, you'll hopefully see as a constant theme throughout today, This had to be a vision that everybody in the marketing organization was part of building, that felt emotionally connected with, and felt that they could all fundamentally get behind. What we really weren't going to do is hire a copywriter to put some really clever words together, put it on mouse mats, or print it on the wall and go, there you go, guys, there's the vision. So we wanted to make sure that it had a very consensus-driven way of working so that everybody was bought into it. We wanted it to be brave, and again, this is what the team told me. We want to be pushing forward in a really brave, bold way. We wanted to make sure that it motivated and it gave people a purpose in their daily work and hopefully leaping out of bed with a new zest to go and be better than they were yesterday. And it needed to be unambiguous. And I know as marketers, things like vision and statements get us a bad rap. So we kind of kept this quite under the radar to start with it within the organization. So we built this as our vision, completely irrelevant to you guys, right? Because it's a totally different scenario. But the really important things for us, and I'll come back to how we evidenced our progress against this, the team wanted to be recognized. That was really important. And that's largely why the award thing was very key in our journey, because they wanted to have that feeling that we were the best in class and that we were acknowledged as best in class in the industry. We also wanted fearlessness to be really key in how we operated. So taking risks, pushing the boundaries, both creatively, but also in the way that we operate generally. And within that, and this is something that I take very seriously as a leader of the team, you can fail, right? You can absolutely stuff up in our team. Hopefully get the learnings out of it and don't repeat it. But that's a really critical part of the DNA of our team. We also wanted to make sure that we were commercially impactful. And this for me is all about marketing being central to the business, being a real commercial lever to the organization. And I think it's fair to say that 2 years ago we weren't that. And we wanted to make sure that that was a real driving force behind the way that we operated. And we had ambition to not just be the leader in our category, but to be, a leading light within the entire B2B professional services space. I've mentioned already, but just to reiterate, the kind of words that are largely relevant for you guys today. I think the key takeout is that we built this with a consensus of the team, so that we had that really strong buy-in from the outset. So I mentioned emotional and rational, and as a guy with this haircut, it's really nice to say, here comes the science bit, if a little ironic. So we wanted to make sure that this had a very rational grounding as well. So here's a really complex graph that you can't read at the back. It's kind of on purpose, really. So we worked with Gartner, and we developed with them something which is really hideously titled, and they definitely need to bring a brand agency in, a functional maturity diagnostic. I know you all want one. But this was essentially an analytic methodology for us understanding where we're at now. How do we benchmark against global best in class, against every dimension of marketing? So you might be able to read here, marketing planning, value proposition, demand gen, managing suppliers, etc. So we couldn't go in and shift the needle on 35 elements of marketing because that would just be nuts. So the blue line, the blue bars, show where we are right now. And then the little yellow dots denote where we said we want to be. So we were able to build a very systematic vision and roadmap for the things that we needed to really focus on. And for us, it was around our value proposition, it was around marketing planning, and it was around demand generation. They were the three really key things for us. we did this exercise with all the stakeholders that marketing operates with as well. So when we were able to play that back to the business, it wasn't, here's what Gary and the guys think the future direction of marketing should be, but it was very much again, consensus-driven approach that we could go back and engage those stakeholders and say, this is our collective view of the priorities of marketing. So I would say that this was of all of the parts of our journey, this was probably the thing that really unlocked the opportunity for us, where we had that permission to grow and transform, but we'd done it in a way that was very heavily driven with our stakeholders and that had an undeniable analytic and data-based element to it. And this is where the emotional and rational bit comes in. So at this point, we've defined a vision, we've created some feel-good, we've used a really smart benchmarking and analytic tool to help us identify where we go from here and how we see the wood from the trees. And the step 3 for us was about bringing people on the journey. And I would say, as a leader in my business, I probably spend getting close to 70% of my time on this. And if there's one thing I found, if you don't do this, if you don't invest the time and the energy in doing this effectively, it makes for a world of pain. So we wanted to make sure that we got right on the front foot on this one. So we started out by, again, with the team collective. If I've not said it already, that's the big thing I think that drives this. We set about just mapping out who the hell are all our stakeholders. And some you'd imagine strategy teams, finance teams, editorial teams, training teams, sales teams, proposition teams, and. And we've got a lot of stakeholders, and I'm sure this is something that you will recognize. I always say, sort of half joke, we should never worry about resource in marketing because in our organization, everyone's an expert on it. So aren't we so lucky? And I never quite understood why they don't do that with IT. But anyway, that's the world we live in. So we knew we had to get really smart at this. But each one of these legs off this diagram could have span out into a further 10. So we don't want to spend all our time doing this. So what we implemented was a smarter way of looking at this. And we all love a 4-box model, right, as marketers. Don't see so many now. So we developed this where we segmented the stakeholders that we work with, and effectively working on the axis of, I don't really like the word, but power, and then interest. So at that top quadrant here, there are some people that have the power to have an influence on our life. That might be finance, for example. They're also pretty interested in the work of marketing. So we make sure now that we almost have a key account management strategy for that top quadrant. And we have different strategies for the others. So we have particular people within the team who have that point responsibility for the orange segment. We've developed newsletters, updates, webinars, and various other devices to get everybody else that's perhaps less powerful but remotely interested in marketing to be aware of what we're doing. And it works. But I think for us, it needed that level of systematic thinking to make it work. And I know that originally this session was about stakeholders, and as I say, I think as marketing leaders, there's not enough we can do here to influence and manage and move our relationships with stakeholders. So that became a really big focus as part of our transformation. And then we wanted to inspire our marketers, right? So we had all this rational, functional, diagnostic reports and things like that. But I think it's really important that we make our marketers feel good and disrupted in a nice way, and we do unexpected things. So we had a team meeting, again, room very similar to this, and when people arrived, we had an Ibiza house DJ at 9 a.m. at full volume. And it was just out of the blue, right? People would have expected to be in some random office with flip charts, and we just done something really different, just to, again, signal that something's changing. You know, the environment's different, it feels braver, it feels out of the ordinary, and I wasn't expecting that. And we've continued to do things like that just to keep our marketers guessing in a positive way and keep them fulfilled and motivated and wondering what's next, really. So all of this was great. So we had a great plan, we had analytics, all the stakeholders were feeling really consulted and good about the world. But there kind of comes a so what moment in this, right? And I think in any transformation journey, you need to have something big that you deliver that delivers performance. That you can say to the business, you know all that stuff we said that you all nodded and thought was amazing? Well, here's how it comes to life. So we set about really early on developing a really big signature action for marketing that would signal that we'd arrived and we'd changed and we were that commercial lever in the business and things were very different. And we had a scenario in our business which was kind of a double-edged one, I guess, in that we had a really shitty sales period. That's a technical finance term, sorry. Where we had a competitor who was absolutely wiping the floor with us. We're the market leader in this particular category. Had this competitor who was going out and overtly offering, you know, in some cases 50% price discounting against us. And we were losing big time on that, I can tell you. And what it also had done, it had taken the mojo out of the company. Everybody was just a little bit, just lost another client to, they're called Lexus, if anyone's interested. We just lost another client to Lexus. And what we kept hearing was the customer would say, so why have you moved? And they'd say, well, it's 50% cheaper. It's not as good as Thomson Reuters, but it's kind of good enough. Well, just to put into context, the product that they said was good enough is a core legal research and content platform. It's really boring if you're not in that world, but it's vital for the way that the law operates and the way that lawyers operate with confidence in the UK. It's not something to economise on. It's, you know, do you ever see the VW ads where the guy goes in and buys the sort of cheap parachute? It's a bit like that. So we had a great opportunity as marketing to completely take that insight and reposition our brand with it. So we launched this campaign and a whole new kind of refresh of our brand where we went out to the market and very bravely and clearly told our customers that accepting good enough isn't good enough. You know, they've never operated in such unprecedented times with Brexit, geopolitical uncertainty, economies all over the show. Is it the time to buy the second-hand parachute? So we were able to completely reposition our brand and marketing in the organization as this insight-driven, bold, brave, target-smashing unit. And without this, I think we would have taken a lot longer on our transformation journey. We got an amazing ROI on this campaign of 189%. We drove our demand generation metrics up by 30% across the board. We even achieved a 34% metric uplift on brand engagement. So for us, it was really, really big. I should have said multi-award winning, right? God, I'm so modest. But this was, we did win an award for that. And we'd never done that. We'd never won an award. And I have to say, things like that, they are a little bit you could say it's a bit of a vanity thing, right? But if you think back to the treadmill and the hamster and the being pulled in all direction, for our team to be up front and central in a major commercial growth initiative and then to be upstage collecting an award for integrated campaign strategy was immense. I can't tell you the psychological lift that gave our team. So yeah, that's the drum award that we won on that occasion, which I think I'm contractually obliged to say are the second most prestigious marketing awards. But nonetheless, we were really delighted to win that. So from that, we had like a whole new vigor now. Right, come on, let's keep raising the bar. So we launched very quickly after that an amazing podcast. It's called The Hearing. It's just like really quirky, interesting people that are connected to the law. So we had Cherry Blair a couple of weeks ago, and I'm turning into a bit of a fanboy next week, so we've got Judge Jules, the DJ, who is a practicing lawyer. So you will learn at least something today. Sorry, it's getting a theme now, isn't it? So that was another drum award for The Hearing. So did it in demand generation, now we're doing it in content marketing. We also do, as I'm sure loads of people in this room, a whole load of events. Full disclosure, I'm not really a big fan of event marketing generally, but it's part of our mix. So what we do now is much less of them. So we get clamours from all around the business to sponsor and be at every event under the sun, and we'd roll up like a circus with our little banner, and here's some squeegee things to give away. But that, I think, massively undermines the value of marketing. So we do less, but we create an experience now. And in fact, it might be a minor thing, but we've kind of rebranded that team. They're not the events team now, they're the experiential marketing team. And they're designed to create a brand experience and take the bar on to the next level. Carried on doing the quirky things, so having followed the people, this was kind of a love-hate thing. So after the house DJ, subsequent all-team session, we hired in some guys from the Michael Jackson Thriller show, and we got the whole team doing the Thriller zombie dance, which was epic. I've always wanted to do that. Full like makeup, zombie things, and again, this is a story, as I said, that's about emotional and rational, right? If you just do stuff like this, people think you're a crazy nutter, which is, a possibility. Let me just say that. But you've got to do all the other things as well, right? You've got to do the smart analytics piece. You've got to deliver. You've got to bring the stakeholders along the journey with you. And then the fifth step for us was we needed to invest in the capabilities of the marketing team. And this is a little bit cliched, so I apologize for that, but it's something that I believe is fundamentally right. So we set about building effectively a T-shaped marketing team. So we wanted to make sure that we had the broad marketing skill set that was uplifted across the team. And then we wanted to make sure that whatever your functional specialism, the investment and the support was there for you to grow and develop in that, whether that's in creative, data, demand, whatever it be. On the broad piece, we then got every marketer, we partnered again with Gartner on this, and we made a pretty chunky investment in an online training platform, where every marketer went through an individual skill assessment. It's not a test. It's not a test. That was a common conversation that I had. It was very personal, very private. You'd see it, nobody else would see it. But from that, it would give each marketer a gap analysis of them. What do I need to really focus my time on? And then, as I mentioned, we had a self-paced online learning platform with, as I mentioned, a fairly chunky investment to enable them to have access to world-class content to build their skill sets. There's a couple of little nerdy facts that I've got up there as well, which I picked up on my travels. These are global, so I'd be interested to see whether they are fully resonating. But it's believed that 70% of marketers have no formal marketing background. And I can believe that because I think how often is it that people, oh, you're a great guy, go and work in marketing. Sometimes that works out brilliantly, but I think we need to recognise that marketers need to have that foundational skill set and understanding to really perform. And this is quite an interesting one, that this obviously doesn't apply to anyone in this room. But marketers generally think they're 25% better than they are. Discuss. So whether they're bang on the money or whatever, I think the sentiment is right that it's really important that we make that investment in the skills and learning of marketers. And then the final point really, and I'll just sort of recap, was the part about culture. And again, I've probably indirectly touched upon culture all the way throughout. Consensus is the number one thing that I think has helped us achieve this transformation. It's, we're all in this, guys. You've got a role, they've got a role. Let's build something together. And that's harder because that takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of influencing, negotiating, and to get to a solution. It's much easier to lock your way in a room, as I said, with a copywriter and come, here's the vision for marketing. But it doesn't work. Try it. Don't try it. So this is the culture that we set about building. So at the heart of it is collaboration. And if you don't have that, I think nothing that we've talked about today really comes to fruition. So we encourage and demand really a way of working that is highly collaborative at all times. I always have found over my career, marketers are great at collaboration outside, but sometimes a little bit less good inside the marketing team. If I'm brutally honest, I never really have understood why that is. But anyway, we very much have driven a culture that's based on collaboration. And within that, supportive, they're in trouble, they're stretched, let's pull some resource here to go and work over there. That's really key. The diversity one, I think, is equally important for us. So we have incredible diversity in the team, against any diversity measure. What I really mean in this context, however, is a diversity of thought. So we don't want all crazy bohemian mavericks running this, but equally we don't want all kind of introverted data. Sorry, that's a stereotype. I'll rephrase that. We don't want introverted people either. We want a real mix of both. And creating that diversity, which we now have, where whichever typology you belong to, you've got an equal voice and an equal share around the table, has been really key to what we do. I mentioned failure. Does anyone here work for Ogilvy or with Ogilvy, the agency? Oh, what for them? Oh, good, okay. Oh, because I stole that from Ogilvy. Full disclosure. They had this concept where their proposition was all based on the concept of safe adventure with their clients. So they wanted you to really push, but they didn't want you to die. And they used to use some visual metaphors, or like a rock climber with the what do you call them, harnesses or whatever. And I've always loved that concept, and that's what we're creating within our team, is that you can push and you can fail and take risks, but we're going to be here for you. You're not going to be, right, come and explain why that campaign died on its backside. We're creating that environment that you can fail. I think it's absolutely critical. We celebrate success. Why are marketers really bad at that? Is that just us? I don't know. I think we've become ridiculously modest over the last decade. Maybe it's back to that treadmill thing or the hamster wheel thing, that we've just smashed something out the park, but we know that there's another deadline tomorrow, so we'll just forget that and move on with tomorrow's thing. But we now have a culture where we take the time out to celebrate that success. It's really important. We also have a restless curiosity embedded in the team. So there's always a better way. There's always a new way. There's always, I think, a conversation to be had about why do we do this? That doesn't make sense. And I think the best marketers never lose that. And that, as a leader, is something that I'm very passionate about building within the team. And the final point is have fun. You know, we have a team that have got really challenging goals. They spend all their waking hours at work. I don't think it's a criminal word to say we want to have fun as well. We want to do great work. We want to drive transformation. But let's do it with a smile on our face and enjoy it along the way. So that when we had our last team meeting, we did another quirky thing just to disrupt people a little bit, where we had like a circus thing with juggling and unicycles. And here was the thing, the difference. Whereas the first couple of things, I wasn't expecting that. Now they were expecting that. So I've got to raise the bar now moving forward. But the good thing for me is we've now built that culture where people don't want to or expect to come to a Hilton with a flip chart and some boring guy at the front. They want to be inspired and pushed out of their zone a little bit, and that's really important. So just finally bringing it all together, this isn't necessarily sequential, but I've talked about it today in a sequential way, just because it kind of works. So we started out with a vision, and it was really critical. It was the thing that helped re-engage, it helped us get that bravery and forward thinking back into marketing. And of course that endures. That's something that, will continue to be there in the background of everything we do. Alongside that, again, the culture that we've built and the values that we're embedding in marketing, again, long-term, enduring commitment from us to make that a reality in our organization. And the elements that we then built to make that a reality, I think the gap analysis piece is really critical. I think it's often the Achilles heel of marketers, that we're great perhaps traditionally at the emotional side, and we need to marry that up more actively with the rational. And for me, having that analytic-driven change program was significant in unlocking that opportunity within our organization. You've got to really invest the time in bringing people on the journey. That's, as I mentioned, that stakeholder piece is something not to be underestimated. And then for us, it was about landing something big early on, that signature action which says, I see now what you guys were talking about. It's now real. Now you've got the license to operate in your organization because you've delivered. That's really key. And then the final, but by no means last point, is that investment in people development has to come through. And for us, it meant giving it the airtime, but it also meant putting our hands in our wallets and actually making that physical investment. And that, again, was key to bring people along with us. So just wrapping up, I mentioned we had a vision that was real. It looked like it was just a bunch of marketing words at the outset, although we avoided the words synergy and alignment. God, if I had £1 for every time I hear those in a day, certainly alignment. So we kind of broke that down into 4 bits. We want to be recognized, we want to be fearless, we want to be insightful, and we want to be more commercial. So recognized, well, we've done okay. We've been at 6 lovely black tie dinners. 3 of them were amazing, 3 of them were crap, obviously. How was last night? Terrible. But the 3 we won, we were really delighted. And as I said many times, I can't tell you the belief that that's brought back into the marketing team. Think back, this team that were like, oh, everyone hates us. To be going into work the next day. Why are awards so rubbish, though? The actual award. Anyway, sorry. It looks so sorry, this little bit of perspex in the corner. Anyway, that's another one for another day. But we were recognised. You know, we were, alongside that, we'd repositioned marketing internally so dramatically you wouldn't believe. You know, we invited to be part of Ignite and things like today. Nobody was invited to Thomson Reuters 3 years ago. So we can say that we're making really good progress on that side. It was important to be fearless. I've mentioned how we've taken a much braver brand positioning. We're now thinking and acting like a market leader. We're not arrogant, but we're confident. And that's been driven by this marketing team. And it's really having an impact on the broader business as well as marketing. We're finding our confidence again, which has been really amazing. And as I mentioned, we've embedded a test and learn culture where failure is welcomed. Brackets, not all the time. We want it to be insightful, and I haven't really touched upon it today, given the nature of the topic, but we've done some really clever things in the way that we go to market, so in the media mix that we use and the intelligence that we have in our targeting, and I'm sure all of you in this room are doing similar things. We've started to now embed ABM as a really key growth driver within our organisation and seeing some really good results from that. But could see more. Another one for another day. And we've now built a much stronger analytic engine that's driving automation in our business. So again, emotional, rational. We've got that, I think, braver brand positioning, but we've now got using the technology and the analytics much more effectively to make that side come to life. And the final all-important bit, really, you know, commercials. So we've got, within marketing, record levels of sales attribution. We've managed to grow pretty much all of the core marketing metrics by, you know, certainly double digits in the last couple of years. And I'm really pleased to say we've got a really great partnership with finance. It's pretty key. Did any of you see the study a couple of years ago that finance directors and what they thought of marketing? I think it was something like 15% of CFOs had no concept what marketing delivered, and they characterised marketing as a little fluffy kitten. So that's been a really big one for us to re-engineer that. So today's, as I mentioned, has hopefully been a good case study. It's been unplugged, raw, authentic. This is how it is, right? This is life. It's not textbook stuff today. This is the reality of trying to drive this in our business. I think we got more right than we got wrong, but we have made some mistakes along the way and we've learned and adapted. But I think the critical kind of leave point today is that this kind of has no ending, right? So we cannot afford to lose the intensity and the focus on this moving forward because it very quickly erodes. So that's really key for us. And I'll just leave you with I don't know if I've got any time for questions, but final kind of emotional part and just how does it feel? And I don't even need to speak to this one, but this is a picture of the team at the B2B Awards night. So maybe I am a crazy nutter after all. But let me just end by saying it felt pretty damn good. So thank you for your time today. I hope you've enjoyed that.